Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, and specifically the Arsenal transfer show. You join me on the morning of Arsenal's away game against Burnley. Kicks off at 3 p.m. UK time, so for the UK viewers out there, we'll need to find other ways of finding out the scoreline. Not saying how, but you will not be able to watch it on TV because of this TV embargo, which was lifted briefly during the pandemic, of course, and has now returned to deprive us of watching the Arsenal during 3 o'clock kickoffs, of which there will surely be quite a few this season, considering Arsenal are not in European action at all, which means there are more Friday and Saturday games, which does mean I was about to say that you get to enjoy your Sunday, but then I realised, well, if Arsenal don't have a good result, well, it's a better chance that Arsenal ruin the entire weekend. But, let's move on to more positive things. Good morning. Hope you're well. Hope you're doing good today and you're enjoying the start of your weekend. First things first, I have to have an apology because there will be no Raw Reaction show today after the game. It's sad. And, I can't even blame my job because I'm actually off today. There's no excuses. I'm at my third festival in a row. Do you know, the issue is I look like the worst person in the world because I've gone to, I went to a festival 4 weeks ago. I went to a festival last weekend and this weekend. And there is a reason why. Now, before the pandemic hit, obviously there was a lot of festivals that were kind of going on at different points throughout the year. And me and my friend of mine, who we go to a lot of these drum and bass stuff, books them. And obviously, when everything was postponed, what's happened is that every single week after kind of restrictions have been lifted, they've all been rearranged in these kind of like 3 to 4 weeks. So I can only apologize. It's not my fault. It is completely the fault of the organizers of these festivals. But what I am going to do is obviously tomorrow's morning show, the 8 a.m. show, that will basically become the Raw Reaction show to the Burnley game. So tune in at the same time you tuned in today, tomorrow morning, and we'll be going through the Burnley game and my reactions to the Burnley game. I would have caught up by that point because I'll be watching it on the way back home and catching up on everything. So make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. for the Raw Reaction show of the Burnley game. And then, of course, we'll be having a podcast as the usual stuff on Sunday or Monday, probably Monday. So make sure you tune in for that. But yeah, there you go. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to The Arsenal Way as well. Link to it is in the description. We've produced a hell of a lot of content over the last couple of days or so, so make sure you check it out. Also, go and watch the preview show that we did on the channel yesterday. I was joined by 3 of my fantastic members, Jordan, Lewis and Ludwig, all joined us to talk about Burnley's game today, our predicted lineups, how we feel about the game. So make sure you go and check that video out if you haven't already. And now let's kick on with the news. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are indeed enjoying the show. We start off the show with Ben White and the concerns surrounding Ben White and him facing Burnley today. Of course, he'll be up against Chris Wood and Charlie Austin. Charlie Austin. Every single time I say Charlie Austin, I mean Ashley Barnes. I don't know why. I've just got this thing in my head that I keep calling Ashley Barnes Charlie Austin. I don't know why it happens, but it does. Ashley Barnes, and both of them we know are going to be much, much better in the air, it seems, than Ben White. And Arteta was asked recently about this, and he said Ben knows what he is going to face, the things that he can improve them. But when you jump against Chris Wood 10 times in the air with a ball flying in the air, it is pretty difficult to win every duel, to be fair. He's got a fair point. I mean, Chris Wood is very good at winning aerial headers. I mean, you can't expect players to win every single one. You're not going to be able to do. You're not going to be able to do that especially if you're a player of Ben White's stature and height. These players like Wood are designed for these aerial challenges, and they wouldn't be where they are if they weren't good at winning them. So it's a simple case of we look forward to seeing how Ben White copes with it. It's going to be a real test for him today, this afternoon. But he has Gabriel, he has Tomiyasu alongside him to help him cope in these scenarios. Now, moving on to our next story, and we talk about Hein signing a brand new contract with Arsenal. Signed, I imagine it is a long-term for a 19-year-old, can be anything up to 5 years. He's turned 18 by this point. It's not like the 3-year contract you see that the youth players can sign. But the long-term contract means that Hein will remain with the club, obviously, into the long term, which is something that wasn't actually expected. There was a lot of kind of feeling that Hein wouldn't remain with the club. 19 years of age. You've got a Okonkwo that's been promoted to the first team. Ramsdale's still here. Leno's still here. He is a full Estonian international. He's got 10 caps for them. In fact, he kept a clean sheet against Wales ever so recently in the last World Cup qualifiers. He is a very, very highly rated young goalkeeper of an international quality already. It is very intriguing that he chose to remain when I think, to be honest, he could have probably left to go somewhere to get regular senior football, but he's decided to stay and fight for his place. And I'm delighted. Obviously, you don't want to see a player leave if they are that good. Maybe we'll sort out a loan for him in either January or next summer because he's remaining now. And obviously, he's not probably going to get a look in over Ramsdale or Leno right at this moment in time. But you got to keep these players in. Just because we've signed a 23-year-old Ramsdale in goal doesn't mean that there's no hope for younger goalkeepers to steal that place. At the end of the day, Arsenal need to play the best goalkeeper for the job. And if Hein develops into a better goalkeeper than Aaron Ramsdale is at the present day, you play Hein. It's as simple as that. So I have no problem with this. It also means you've got another asset that if you were to, say, sell later on down the line, you can make a fair amount of money from him. So it's all positive. It's all good in this respect that we've got Hein signing on to a deal and going into Arsenal's future. Really good news for Arsenal in that respect. Now, one player that doesn't look like he'll be signing a new contract with Arsenal is Alexandre Lacazette. In fact, Arsenal have supposedly not even offered Lacazette a new contract. There is nothing on the table for the French forward, and that has obviously increased the amount of interest in the player, and he could yet depart the team in January. James Ollie of ESPN reporting that he could, in fact, be moving to a number of clubs that are interested. There are supposedly whispers that the Italian clubs, Inter Milan and AC Milan, are both intrigued by the possibility of Lacazette. AC Milan, of course, have Zlatan Ibrahimovic there, but has suffered with a hell of a lot of injury problems. Lacazette would be a good replacement. Wouldn't necessarily be a young replacement, but considerably still much younger than Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So there's that factor to be involved in all of this. So if we can move him on in January for a price and get someone in, that someone would have to be good. If we can't get a good striker in January, I wouldn't let him go. I'd just let him run down the contract. You're not going to get a lot of money, I don't think, in January. I just don't see that happening unless you can start kind of a bidding war between teams, which would still be unlikely. But Lacazette looks to be on his way out of the Arsenal very, very soon. Now, finally, the last thing I want to point on today, not loads of news, because obviously it is match day, so there doesn't tend to be loads of news on match day or the day after match day, so it's good that we're going to be covering the game in tomorrow's morning show. Article of the day to point you in the direction of is something I wrote yesterday on football.london about Thomas Partey's fitness and it being an issue of kind of managing this level of fitness. How do you balance the need of playing Thomas Partey with the injury issues he's faced? We've got the North London derby coming up next weekend, and we will need a fully fit Thomas Partey ready and available. But you've got this conundrum of knowing how much he improves our midfield. Do you play him in this game against Burnley? Let me know in the chat box. Do you play Partey in this game? 3 out of 4 of us in our preview show predicted that we would play Thomas Partey. And on the preview show, I did On the Arsenal Way. Link is in the description to watch this. I was joined by Alex James from Lancs Live, Burnley writer and reporter. And we had a discussion about how kind of Arsenal could get in over Burnley, but how their tactics they used against Norwich wouldn't specifically be so effective. Make sure you give that a watch and subscribe to the Arsenal Way, of course. And if you haven't already, check out our preview from yesterday. In the chat box, we're saying yes, absolutely. Check per, very simple. Yeah, would play Thomas Partey in today's game against Burnley. But you see, it's a very difficult kind of balancing act that you've got to try and play because you don't know whether or not he's going to get injured. You don't know if you want to take that risk. It's very, very difficult to do so. We are now going to move on to the point of the show in which we go through your thoughts, your theories, your feelings, your questions. Get them into the chat box and we'll go through as many of them as feasibly possible. Nick Meadows says, give Thomas an hour. Hopefully we've got a lead by then and maybe then half an hour in the cup to build his fitness. I don't think you need to play him in the cup game, to be honest, at all. I would be looking to play Maitland-Niles, Lokonga, Patino, giving probably Maitland-Niles and Patino, to be honest, next to one another in the midfield, give them an opportunity to play. I'm desperate to see Patino start. I really want to see him an opportunity given to him in the senior team. I'm going to be covering that game for FL. Again, there won't be a Raw reaction show because I'm on until midnight that night. So we'll be covering that game in the morning at 8 a.m. on Thursday. So plenty of stuff that's going to be going on next week. And I'm glad to have some midweek football action back, to be honest. I'm just glad to have midweek football. I've needed that in my life. Raheel said score predictions, Tom, and goal scorers. Did I give mine yesterday on the preview show? I'm not sure I did. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win with Aubameyang to get both goals is what I'm going to go for. And fingers crossed that comes to pass. Anish says, Tom, what about switching White and Takehiro Tomiyasu's positions? Both can play in both positions. I wouldn't. I would continue to play with Tomiyasu at right back and play Ben White at right centre back. I just think that we need to make sure that back four has got the building of their chemistry and the consistency and stability. Keep them together, keep them in the same positions, and allow them to build up that relationship with each other. Michael Velasquez says, I would give Partey at least 45 minutes and then sub him out at half time. Olu says, he has played much football this season. I will play him as he needs match fitness. Let's go to Peter, who says playing for 60 minutes, Partey, and a full 90 in the North London derby. So there you go. Your mama says, I would like to see Patino making his debut next to Partey in the cup game for half an hour and see so he sees the level that he needs to be aspiring towards. Dennis says, Tom, a lot of attention is given to Charlie Patino, but what about Kido Taylor-Hart? He has been just as impressive, in my opinion. Thoughts on his future? His future is positive. He signed a new deal with us this summer, so we know that we've got hold of him. He's an interesting player, can play in wide areas, can play centrally in kind of an attacking midfield role as well. I look forward to talking to Kev from Next Generation Arsenal. It should be out next week. Our update on how the youth are getting on. We're doing like a bi-monthly, I suppose, update on the youth team. So looking forward to hearing more about how Kido Taylor-Hart and Patino are getting on. Aditya says, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Patino, Balogun, Martinelli, Chambers, Holding, Tavares should all start against Wimbledon. Tulip's going for an Arsenal 3-0 Burnley, Aubameyang brace and one from Saka. And says, I have a feeling we'll see White prove doubters wrong and boss it against Burnley. Aditya says, Taylor-Hart is good, but Patino is more pleasing to watch. Czech Bert says, do you see a scenario where Arteta's tactics actually start to make sense? I want to be positive, but it's hard. Look, I think there was a clear kind of tactic in the sense against Norwich. We were going to press them from the start, and there was absolute like frenetic energy in that game against Norwich in the first 20 minutes, led by Martin Odegaard. But the situation we find ourselves in against Burnley is the fact that Burnley do not play out from the back. Like they just don't play out from the back whatsoever. And so we're not going to be able to press them. And so because we're not able to press them, they're going to kick it long, and we're going to have to deal with the likes of Chris Wood. We're going to have to deal with the likes of not Charlie Austin, but Ashley Barnes in the forward line for Burnley, and dealing with those kind of attacking headers, aerial duels. Ben White is going to have his work cut out to really have to try and win those headers. So he's got to impress today. And one of the days could be today that he does impress. Gunner 23 says, don't you think it's time that we allow this lineup to gel a bit and go on a good run, considering that we are far off, from where we need to be? I think that obviously it's about stability. It's about changing one or two max players in each game. For me, the changes that I would make is I'd bring Pepe out, bring Smith Rowe in. I'd take Maitland-Niles out and put Partey in, and that's the only thing that I would change. The only reason I'm taking Pepe out is because I want to see some added creativity from Smith Rowe added into the team. Saka played on the right-hand side, where I think he flourishes a lot more. So that's just what I would do in today's game. Rohit says, what tweaks in tactics would you make in today's game compared to the last game? Besides what I just said about the lineup, you can't press the back line as much. You've got to more press them in the middle of the park. You've got to press them away from the goalkeeper. So in the middle third of the pitch, we need to be high intensity, win the ball back near the halfway line so we can counter very quickly. And you've got to stop the crosses. That has got to be a priority for Arsenal today, is making sure we stop the ball getting into the box. Tomiyasu needs to be closing down on what will probably be McNeil on the left, and Kieran Tierney needs to close down who I imagine will probably be Goodmanson on the right-hand side. We just need to stop the crosses being put into the box, because that is going to be one of the keyest parts to nullifying Burnley's big threat. Maximus, sorry, says, lack of going out will weaken our forward line. Will we then get a marquee striker signing again? Only in the summer, I imagine. I'd be surprised if we did it in January, although, of course, Aubameyang was signed in January. So there's always that to consider. ACB West says, would buying another player at striker after Lacazette unbalance the youth and experience in the squad? Do you mean another youth player at striker, like another young player at striker? I think that's what you mean. After Lacazette unbalanced the youth and experience in the squad, I would buy a striker between the ages of about 24 to 26 to really give us that kind of person that's going to kind of develop into their prime at the club is what I would do. I don't think you're going to get any benefit otherwise from going too heavy on say someone else. Peppa Pig says, should Xhaka be sold just so the manager doesn't use him? I mean, if we can get any money for him, obviously I would take it. I just don't think you're going to see him sold after signing a new contract. Anish says, Tom, what do you think of Emile Smith-Rowe at a deep position like Pogba and same front four as Norwich? I wouldn't do that. I think Burnley should still be respected whilst they're playing at home, and you need to respect the level that we need to build from the back. And I like the idea of playing Partey and Lokonga together. I want to see those two start together, but we will wait and see. Amandeep says, do you think this image of Burnley being a team for the working class lets them get away with a lot of horrible fouls? Interesting question. Are there any? Is that even something we get in 2021? Kind of this idea of the working class? I don't know. I'm not a sociology expert, but I don't think that's a case of letting them get away with horrible fouls. I think just some players are able to get away with horrible fouls more than others, and some teams are able to get away with them more than others. I don't think it's anything to do with the social side of things, but that's just me. It may be a theory that you have that might be spot on. I don't know, Amandeep, possibly. And he says, Tom, what do you think of... Oh, we've done that one. Rohit, thank you ever so much for rejoining as one of our members or upgrading your membership. I'll be able to know what you've done in a second. But thank you ever so much for the continued support, mate. Really appreciate it. Tulip says, understand about Emile Smith-Rowe for Pepe, but then how will he get consistency? It's make or break year for him. Yes, one game doesn't change that too much. We've got Spurs next week. I'd play Pepe against Spurs, and then you can just continue to play him. It's just this Burnley game. I'm not sure that it's the most beneficial. I just think this is one of those games I'd rather see Saka, Smith-Rowe and Ødegaard feeding those incisive passes through to Aubameyang rather than Pepe, because I think he's going to struggle against that stubborn defence. I think he's going to struggle to get past players. He may play and prove me wrong. I hope he does. But I just think that it's better to play with Saka, Smith-Rowe and Ødegaard as the front three attacking midfielders. Stephen says, wouldn't you think Lacazette could be kept as he is good at, he's a good around young player? Good around the young players, sorry. Yes, possibly, but he's not going to sign a new deal. He doesn't want to sign a new deal from what we've kind of heard and what we've learned is that he has no intention of a new deal being signed, it doesn't seem like. So I know there's not been one been offered to him so far, but there's no feeling that he would stay anyway and that he's looking to move on to more regular football somewhere else. John says, am I wrong, or did Arteta come into the club playing the high press and then it disappeared until last week? Possibly so. We did obviously press quite hard. I remember the game against Bournemouth. There was an immediate kind of impact when he came in, but it did die away a little bit, and then we started to kind of build from the back a lot more. But I think he's realised that he needs to go back to the basics, press the ball, win the ball high up the pitch, counter-attack, score. That's what we need to do, because building up from the back is proving a little bit tricky, although we do have a lot more players in the defence and the goalkeeper to do that. John Daly says, why don't we push early doors for a goal much? We did against Norwich, to be fair. I thought we really did push for an early goal against Norwich. We couldn't quite take the chances that we had. So that's the issue. Oh, right, you're having to renew your membership manually each month. I think that's to do with a location thing. I think if you're in a certain location, it makes you do that. I don't know why. Apologies. But thank you for your continued support, Rohit. Wes Lee says, hi, Tom. Everyone, I was away for some time. Any big news in the last 8 days? Hopefully today gives you the big news that you need, Wes. That's all we're looking for. But other than that, you'll have to go back and have a look through the previous shows to find out all your latest Arsenal news of course. Aditya says, let Laka leave. We can't keep a player on the books for 200k wages so that he would be good with the youngsters rather than pushing them to do better. I tend to agree. Jonathan says, if we struggle to score until the 75th minute, should we bring on El Neni? I mean, I don't think he's even fit. He would take his long shots, but I don't think he's fit, mate. Sorry. Trevor says, White is not the first time that he has played against Woods. He knows what he has to do. It's true. He would have played against him when Brighton played against Burnley last season. Let's not spam the chat, please, guys. Thank you. Jeffrey says, I feel this is the game to play Laka against a bruising defence. I would still play Aubameyang. He scored last game. Don't knock his confidence by dropping him. Continue to play him. He's a key striker. He's our key man. He's the big goal scorer for us this season. Play Aubameyang. Ife says, hi, Tom. Any news on the All or Nothing series? It's just continuing on, mate. It's just filming. Like, it won't come out until the end of the season. So you probably won't hear any big news about the series until towards the end of the campaign. You don't tend to hear anything about it, but it is being filmed continually throughout the season. We'll have to see what goes on behind the scenes. And that is where we're going to finish things off. Thank you ever so much, guys, for tuning in, as always, for our morning show and making this part of your morning routine. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. to react to the game. As I say, I won't be around after the game because I'm away this weekend, both days. But I will be around tomorrow morning to do the show and react to the news. If you would like to get some raw reaction to the game over on the Arsenal Way, some of my colleagues will be doing a show straight after the game. Link to the Arsenal Way is in the description. So please do go and check it out because they should be doing a show straight after today's game. Go and subscribe to it. We did a really good preview on the channel over there. So make sure you go and check it out for some more content. But other than that, drop a like on today's video. Subscribe to TGT if you are indeed new. And have a fantastic Saturday. And I hope you enjoy the game. And I mean, you're only going to enjoy the game if we win. For that reason, I certainly hope you enjoy it. See you very soon, guys. And as always, up the Arsenal.